Hey guys, welcome back to MassiveSynth.com tutorials. This is part 2 of the kind of dubstep growl loop production feature we've been doing this month. Also mention at this point as well, make sure you get subscribed if you're not subscribed already to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ADSR tuts for the video, all the videos we do for Massive, FM8, Reactor, Contact and Absynth. So yeah, in part 1 of this feature I talked through how I created this loop. We didn't actually do any kind of recreation of any massive synth sounds. We just I used these presets. Basically, you can see which presets I've used from both the Complextro and Dubstep Growl packs that I did for MassiveSynth.com. And I just kind of talked through how I created that chord sequence and then chopped it up and created this kind of loop that I was playing for you there, and also kind of editing some of these drums. So today we're going to look at just kind of sort of balancing the levels, because there's so many different synth sounds going on. If we look at this mixer and this output here, it's kind of all over the place. The levels are jumping. I mean, we want some sounds to kind of really jump out of the mix to a certain extent, but it's just very unbalanced at the moment and stuff. So we'll look at kind of balancing these sounds, EQing them and stuff. So for starters, I mean, sometimes with synth sounds I'll bounce to audio and process, but a lot of these bass sounds created we're kind of re-triggering the phases, so it's always going to be the same. You know, I think that one's, if I check here, in here. So yeah, once we've got a lot of these bass sounds, because they're kind of like dubsteppy bass sounds, we've got this restart via gate, so we're just getting a nice consistent sound. So I'm going to go through and check they're all like that, and if not, either, so that's not one. Check that restart via gate, and we get much more of a consistent kind of tone really, which is what we want for these sort of bass sounds. I notice we're going into the red there as well, so pull that down a bit. And yeah, so I mean, some of them I noticed as well, these sounds have got a little bit too much reverb on too. That one's okay. Just check we've got the restart via gate there. It's got a bit of reverb, but it's not too in your face. It's going into the red a little bit though. So that's far too much reverb on there really. Once we start distorting and compressing that sound, it's going to start distorting and compressing that reverb and just bringing it out even more. So I'm not going to get rid of it altogether, I'm just going to tame it to that dry wet down and that size right down. So got a little bit of a tail going on there, but nothing sort of too extreme. Check that restart via gate as well. Take some of that reverb off. Again, far too much reverb. It's got a huge kind of sort of tail really. And if we want to bring some of that reverb back into the sound, we could always use a bus send to just add a bit more reverb onto the sound and just control. We'll have a bit more control over the reverb that way. Yeah, again, far too much reverb. Restart via gate on that sound as well, and I think this scribble. Okay, so now we should have nice consistent kind of bass sounds throughout without too much sort of reverb tail on them. And we mute this, just double check this bass tone here. Yeah, that's got the restart via gate. So if I mute that and this the kind of chords. And so what we can do for starters, really, kind of EQing the sounds. Look at this kind of drum, this kick drum here. most of that weight is sort of just below with kind of 50 Hertz. So I want to sort of do a kind of low end drop on a lot of these sounds, because we'll be adding a sub later as well, so that's going to fill out that low end space in between the kick drums. So for this bass sound here, we can have the analyzer on and just roll some of that bottom end off to maybe, and put a kind of tighter slope, a 36 dB slope on there, roll off to about 80. And then what we can do is duplicate that EQ to all of the other bass sounds really. So now we've got this kind of low end drop on all of these sounds. There's not too much going on down there, which is what we want really. We want to add that sub in there, and we've got the kick as well filling out that low end. So next thing to do is sort the levels out a little bit before we get into any more processing. So I found the best way to approach kind of getting all these levels sorted was to just loop this over, maybe mute the chords, so we can just hear all these bass sounds going on, and just loop it over with the drums really, playing it back at different volumes to just get a feel for how the sounds want to kind of fit together. So I mean, a technique I tend to use was a lot of these bass sounds have a lot of top ends, so if I mix, just get them balanced so they kind of sound balanced at a low volume and at a high volume and stuff is the sort of, for me, that's the way I find kind of the best way to sort of get a good sense of the levels really. So put that bass up a bit. It's a little bit too loud there. And yeah, just kind of looping it over really, just getting a sense for some of these sounds. I'll shorten the loop now. Maybe that's a bit loud. Pull that chord back in actually. That sounds alright. Pull this one down a bit. And you just want a sense of coherence with all the sounds really. I mean, some of them have got like more high frequency content than others, and like this scribble sound here, it's quite a cool sound. I kind of want that to jump out of the mix a little bit. And then this kind of fill section at the end. Maybe these three sounds, highlight the three together, maybe a little bit too loud, and I can just pull them down together, so they're still kind of like got the same level in relationship to each other, but just on the whole they just then the more kind of, because what I want to do with all these bass sounds is I thought, because there's so many different sounds going on, to get that coherent sort of feel with them all, was to process them together, maybe do a little bit of independent EQing just to bring out certain kind of frequency elements, but essentially bust them and compress and distort and it just on the kind of one channel to sort of make this kind of all the sounds gel a little bit more. So the more accurate we can get the levels before they go to that bus, the more effective our processing could be, you know. So listen to the full loop now. sounds a little bit too loud still, I think. Okay, sounds pretty cool. Still got that kind of continuous weight, you know, nothing really below 80 hertz, but a nice kind of like sort of above that, you know, like around here we're getting a lot of energy, the kind of 100 hertz to sort of 500 hertz. Some nice top end energy from some of those sounds as well. So let's set up the bus channel next. Okay, so it's going to send all of these bass sounds. I'm going to treat the chords a little bit separately, process them slightly differently to the bass sounds, so adding a bit of width to them and what have you. So for these bass sounds, highlight all of these, and in Logic I can just change the output to a bus, send them all to bus 1, and then we'll get this bus 1 over here. So now we've got all of these bass sounds coming down one channel. So this is a really cool way of just processing all these sounds, because I think maybe I could roll a tiny bit more bottom end off there, and rather than having to do that like I did individually with all those other channels, I can just apply this to the group as a whole. So and then we can make sure we can add some sub in that bottom end region there. Okay, so we've got our bus channel set up, we've got a level sorted, a little bit of a kind of low end roll on the EQ, and yeah, I mean the next things to look at really would maybe be we'll be creating a sub to kind of fit underneath those bass sounds and in between the kick drums, just to provide that kind of low end energy. And then we can look a bit more processing, a little bit more EQ, using the FabFilter Pro Q and the compressor and Saturn to just kind of distort things a little bit. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, I hope you found it useful. Any questions, please get in touch, and make sure you check out massivesynth.com for loads more tutorials, and also the discussion forum as well, so all things related to Massive. So yeah, alright, thanks for watching, hope to see you again soon. Cheers, bye.